Yes, welcome back. I got a shower and a shaving. It's a very dark day. I need my tripod. Let's read bits. Oops. Just got a shower and a shaving. So I like to get to my bed so my hair can dry. Yes, I like to learning something new. That's why I do this. I'm reading.
Incandescent light bulb. A 230-volt incandescent light bulb with a medium-size D27, Edison 27mm, male screw base. Filament is visible as the mostly horizontal line between the vertical supply wires. A scanning electron microscope image of the tungsten filament of an incandescent light bulb. An incandescent light bulb, incandescent lamp or incandescent light globe is an electric light with a wire filament that is heated until it glows. The filament is enclosed in a glass bulb that is either evacuated or filled with inert gas to protect the filament from oxidation. Current is supplied to the filament by terminals or wires embedded in the glass. A bulb socket provides mechanical support and electrical connections. Incandescent bulbs are manufactured in a wide range of sizes, light output and voltage ratings, from 1.5 volts to about 300 volts. They require no external regulating equipment, have low manufacturing costs, and work equally well on either alternating current or direct current. As a result, the incandescent bulb became widely used in household and commercial lighting, for portable lighting such as table lamps, car headlamps, and flashlights, and for decorative and advertising lighting. Incandescent bulbs are much less efficient than other types of electric lighting. Less than 5% of the energy they consume is converted into visible light. The rest is lost as heat. 1. 2. The luminous efficacy of a typical incandescent bulb for 120 V operation is 16 lumens per watt, Lm/W, compared with 60 Lm/W for a compact fluorescent bulb or 100 Lm/W for typical white LED lamps. 3. The heat produced by filaments is used in some applications, such as heat lamps in incubators, lava lamps, and the Isabake oven toy. Quartz-enveloped halogen infrared heaters are used for industrial processes such as paint curing and space heating. Incandescent bulbs typically have short lifetimes compared with other types of lighting, around 1,000 hours for home light bulbs versus typically 10,000 hours for compact fluorescents and 20,000–30,000 hours for lighting LEDs. Most incandescent bulbs can be replaced by fluorescent lamps, high-intensity discharge lamps, and light-emitting diode lamps, LED. Some governments have begun a phase-out of incandescent light bulbs to reduce energy consumption. History. Historians Robert Friedel and Paul Israel list inventors of incandescent lamps prior to Joseph Swan and Thomas Edison of General Electric. 4. They conclude that Edison's version was able to outstrip the others because of a combination of three factors: an effective incandescent material, a higher vacuum than others were able to achieve, by use of the Sprengel pump, and a high resistance that made power distribution from a centralized source economically viable. Elaborate light in Denver, Colorado. Historian Thomas Hughes has attributed Edison's success to his development of an entire, integrated system of electric lighting. The lamp was a small component in his system of electric lighting, and no more critical to its effective functioning than the Edison jumbo generator, the Edison main and feeder, and the parallel distribution system. Other inventors with generators and incandescent lamps, and with comparable ingenuity and excellence, have long been forgotten because their creators did not preside over their introduction in a system of lighting. Thomas P. Hughes, in Technology at the Turning Point, edited by W. B. Pickett, 5, 6. Timeline of the early evolution of the light bulb, 7. Advarsal, Tom Side. Advarsal, Tom Side. Early pre-commercial research. Original carbon filament bulb from Thomas Edison's shop in Menlo Park in 1761. Ebenezer Kinnersley demonstrated heating a wire to incandescence. 8. In 1802, Humphrey Davy used what he described as a battery of immense size. 9. Consisting of 2,000 cells housed in the basement of the Royal Institution of Great Britain. 10. To create an incandescent light by passing current through a thin strip of platinum, chosen because the metal had an extremely high melting point. It was not bright enough nor did it last long enough to be practical, but it was the precedent behind the efforts of scores of experimenters over the next 75 years. 11. Over the first 3/4 of the 19th century, many experimenters worked with various combinations of platinum or iridium wires, carbon rods, and evacuated or semi-evacuated enclosures. Many of these devices were demonstrated and some were patented. 12. In 1835, James Bowman Lindsay demonstrated a constant electric light at a public meeting in Dundee, Scotland. He stated that he could read a book at a distance of 1.5 feet. However, he did not develop the electric light any further. 13. In 1838, Belgian lithographer Marcelin Jobard invented an incandescent light bulb with a vacuum atmosphere using a carbon filament. 14. In 1840, British scientist Warren de la Rue enclosed a coiled platinum filament in a vacuum tube and passed an electric current through it. The design was based on the concept that the high melting point of platinum would allow it to operate at high temperatures and that the evacuated chamber would contain fewer gas molecules to react with the platinum, improving its longevity. Although a workable design, the cost of the platinum made it impractical for commercial use. In 1841, Frederick de Molins of England was granted the first patent for an incandescent lamp, with a design using platinum wires contained within a vacuum bulb. He also used carbon. 15. 16. In 1845, American John W. Starr patented an incandescent light bulb using carbon filaments. 17. 18. Eye's invention was never produced commercially. 19. In 1851, Jean Eugene Robert Houdin publicly demonstrated incandescent light bulbs on his estate in Blois, France. His light bulbs are on display in the Museum of the Château de Blois. In 1859, Moses G. Farmer built an electric incandescent light bulb using a platinum filament. 20. Thomas Edison later saw one of these bulbs in a shop in Boston, and asked Farmer for advice on the electric light business. In 1872, Russian Alexander Lodygin invented an incandescent light bulb and obtained a Russian patent in 1874. He used as a burner 2 carbon rods of diminished section in a glass receiver, hermetically sealed and filled with nitrogen, electrically arranged so that the current could be passed to the second carbon when the first had been consumed. 21. Later he lived in the U.S., changed his name to Alexander de Lodygin and applied for and obtained patents for incandescent lamps having chromium, iridium, rhodium, ruthenium, osmium, molybdenum and tungsten filaments. 22. And a bulb using a molybdenum filament was demonstrated at the World Fair of 1900 in Paris. 23. Alexander Lodygin on 1951 Soviet postal stamp on the 24th of July 1874. A Canadian patent was filed by Henry Woodward and Matthew Evans for a lamp consisting of carbon rods mounted in a nitrogen-filled glass cylinder. They were unsuccessful at commercializing their lamp and sold rights to their patent, U.S. Patent 181,613, to Thomas Edison in 1879. Edison needed ownership of the novel claim of lamps connected in a parallel circuit. 2425. On the 4th of March 1880, just 5 months after Edison's light bulb, Alessandro Cruto created his first incandescent lamp. Cruto produced a filament by position of graphite on thin platinum filaments, by heating it with an electric current in the presence of gaseous ethyl alcohol. Heating this platinum at high temperatures leaves behind thin filaments of platinum coated with pure graphite. By September 1881 he had achieved a successful version of this, the first synthetic filament. The light bulb invented by Cruto lasted 500 hours as opposed to the 40 of Edison's original version. In 1882 Munich Electrical Exhibition in Bavaria, Germany, Cruto's lamp was more efficient than the Edison's one and produced a better white light. 26. In 1893, Heinrich Goebel claimed he had designed the first incandescent light bulb in 1854, with a thin carbonized bamboo filament of high resistance, platinum lead-in wires in an all-glass envelope, and a high vacuum. Judges of 4 courts raised doubts about the alleged Goebel anticipation, but there was never a decision in a final hearing due to the expiration of Edison's patent. A research work published in 2007 concluded that the story of the Goebel lamps in the 1850s is fictitious. 27. Commercialization. Carbon filament and vacuum. Carbon filament lamps, showing darkening of bulb. Sir Joseph Wilson Swan. Joseph Swan, 1828-1914, was a British physicist and chemist. In 1850, he began working with carbonized paper filaments in an evacuated glass bulb. By 1860, he was able to demonstrate a working device, but the lack of a good vacuum and an adequate supply of electricity resulted in a short lifetime for the bulb and an inefficient source of light. By mid-1870s better pumps had become available, and Swan returned to his experiments. 28. With the help of Charles Stone, an expert on vacuum pumps, in 1878 Swan developed a method of processing that avoided the early bulb blackening. This received a British patent in 1880. 29. On the 18th of December, 1878, a lamp using a slender carbon rod was shown at a meeting of Newcastle Chemical Society, and Swan gave a working demonstration at their meeting on 17 January 1879. It was also shown to 700 who attended a meeting of the Literary and Philosophical Society of Newcastle upon Tyne on the 3rd of February 1879. 30. These lamps used a carbon rod from an arc lamp rather than. Historical plaque at Underhill, first house to be lit by electric lyser slender filament. Thus they had low resistance and required very large conductors to supply the necessary current, so they were not commercially practical, although they did furnish a demonstration of the possibilities of incandescent lighting with relatively high vacuum, a carbon conductor, and platinum lead-in wires. This bulb lasted about 40 hours. 30. Swan then turned his attention to producing a better carbon filament and the means of attaching its ends. He devised a method of treating cotton to produce parchmentous thread in the early 1880s and obtained British patent 4933 that same year. 29. From this year he began installing light bulbs in homes and landmarks in England. His house Underhill, Low Fell, Gateshead, was the first in the world to be lit by a light bulb. In the early 1880s he had started his company. 31. In 1881, the Savoy Theatre in the city of Westminster, London was lit by Swan incandescent light bulbs, which was the first theatre, and the first public building in the world, to be lit entirely by electricity. 32. First street in the world to be lit by an incandescent light bulb was Mosley Street, Newcastle upon Tyne, United Kingdom. It was lit by Joseph Swan's incandescent lamp on the 3rd of February 1879. 33. 34. Comparison of Edison, Maxim, and Swan bulbs. 1885 Edison carbon filament lamps. Early 1880s Thomas Alva Edison began serious research into developing a practical incandescent lamp in 1878. Edison filed his first patent application for improvement in electric light